I want you folks to play these 3 games from the NLA. Daily pick 3 cash flow and play with. You will be supporting sports and culture, nation building and our future. So go out and play, folks, make it a must. You will see what the National Lottery is doing for us. When you play pick 3 cash flow and play with, the NLA will support you all the way.
Starting September 30th, Monday to Friday, these 3 games will be drawn mid-morning, 9:45 a.m., midday, 12:45 p.m., and evenings, 7:45 p.m. The National Lotteries, supporting sports, culture, and nation building.
Sunday money day.
Yeah. Welcome to Ride Along Live. It's Wednesday. Beautiful Wednesday. How you guys doing? What's up, my beautiful people? Welcome to the ride. Welcome to the folks that's also listening on Riders HD Radio. Riders HD Radio all over the world, folks that's locked on, listening to us right now on their Alexa, on their Google speakers, on ridersradio.com, on New York and J Wonder Radio. A lot of people locked on via radio. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Appreciate you. And of course, for everyone, loyal fans, viewers, supporters, friends, everybody, watch us live right now on YouTube and also on Facebook. Soon, guys, we're going to be live on TikTok. For those of you who are on TikTok, we're going to be live over there as well. Okay. Sherry, big up yourself. Thank you so much. Somebody tag a friend. Kia, how you doing? You reach. This one today, guys, is going to be a big conversation because as you well fully know that this debate has been waging for the past couple of weeks in relation to the SEED program, the Support for Education, Empowerment and Development program, right? There have been so many talk and so many information that has been going all over the place, and some of which could be considered misleading based on when you compare it to the facts. Some of them are very debatable, all right? So what we're going to be doing here today is speaking with 2 individuals, a journalist who is very knowledgeable of the process of the SEED program, and also Cassandra. And you know, Cassandra Mitchell, she the whole shim out in plain English. Cassandra, tell it as it is. And we're happy to have them here. But that's not all the total list of the panel. You too are contributors to this conversation because the SEED program affects families far and wide. So you could contribute by calling in. From the start, we have the phone lines open up, so you guys could call in and contribute your opinion on the topic of SEED. All right, so here where we are, guys. Recently, the conversation has been going on for a while, but the SEED program enacted you could say a stimulus, an additional $150 to the existing $300. Now, as what was said by the party, by the NDC party, is that this measure was somehow a temporary measure by the former administration, right? Now, this $150 that was added on to the payment expired. And a lot of people basically were unaware, some who were unaware, and some who were taken by surprise. So this is the Prime Minister speaking about the SEED program and what he believed happened and what he wanted the nation to know about the SEED program. This is the Prime Minister, and we're going to come back, bring in the panel and talk about it. This is Honorable Deacon Mitchell speaking on the SEED program.
It appears that deliberately so, personnel are trying to suggest that somehow the government has chosen to end the program, which was a permanent program, by reduction of the 150. I'm going to read for our citizens and for you members of the media an excerpt that was taken from the speech of the Honorable then Minister of Finance, the Honorable Gregory Bowen, as it pertains to the temporary nature of the additional $150 that was added as part of the economic stimulus package on a temporary basis to beneficiaries of SEED. And I'm reading his budget statement. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, $10 million is allocated on the government's COVID-19 economic stimulus package for the provision of cash transfer benefits in 2002. These will be provided through temporary horizontal expansion of the SEED program to provide support to over 1,000 households. Now, I want the citizens to understand this. This statement, which was contained in the then budget statement of the Honorable Minister for Finance, Gregory Bowen, that statement was made when he delivered his budget presentation, and it was made post or after the preparations for that budget. There was, in fact, no budgetary allocation in the budget for this. And as a result, when this administration took office in June, we came back to Parliament and sought the approval of Parliament for $8 million to, in fact, fund the temporary increase in the seed allocation of $150. Let me repeat this. When the budget statement was read in November of 2021, promising this additional $10 million, there was no actual appropriation for it. And so when the program started and there was the additional increase in 2022, there was no budgetary allocation for it. There was no actual appropriation approved by Parliament for it. It is this administration, when we went back to do the supplemental appropriation, that we had to budget an additional $8 million to ensure that the funds were spent. And this is not hidden, because the supplementary appropriation went through all of the phases. It went before the Finance Committee. I'm chairman of the Finance Committee, and each member of the House of Representatives is a member of the Finance Committee. The Honorable Leader of the Opposition and all of his members who attended the Finance Committee meeting would have been part of that process, giving the additional $8 million, which was never budgeted for, and which it was known was a temporary measure as part of the economic stimulus package for the year 2022. And so that package came to an end in 2022. It was always temporary. It was known that it was temporary, but specifically it was not in fact funded by the previous budget. It took our supplementary appropriation to authorize spending for this. Citizens to understand that perhaps we didn't do a good enough job in October, November to remind citizens that this temporary aspect was coming to an end, and if that's the case, we will have accountability for that. But do not let people fool you or mislead you into thinking that they somehow, while they were in administration, embarked upon a permanent program that this administration is reversing. It is not. It is the same 18 million that is budgeted for the seed program, 2021, 2022, and into this 2023 budget.
All right, so let's get right into it. Cassandra Mitchell, you heard the Prime Minister there in his remarks. What is your take and what's your position on the removal of this $150 from the payments? Okay, hold on, Cassandra. Yes, Cassandra, try now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I just want to take the opportunity to wish each and every one of you viewers who I have not interacted with for the year a happy and prosperous 2023. Thank you, Junior, for this opportunity to just kind of talk about, what is obviously a topic of discussion on the ground. If you allow me, I heard the Minister of Finance take an excerpt of the budget statement as presented by former Minister of Finance, Gregory Bowen. I too also have an excerpt from that said document.
Right.
And it says, and I'm quoting the former minister, Mr. Speaker, protecting our less fortunate citizens while helping to lift them out of poverty is our duty and responsibility. Government therefore reaffirms its commitment to leave no one behind, particularly in light of increased cost of living expenses. In this regard, the following social protection initiative are part of the government's strategy to help cushion the effects of the pandemic on the most vulnerable. An increase of $150 per household for beneficiaries of the SEED program, effective January 2022. This additional benefit excludes those added temporarily as part of the stimulus package. And again, I'm unquote, this is an excerpt from the 2022 budget statement as presented by former Minister of Finance Gregory Bowen. So I noticed that the current Minister of Finance did not read that excerpt. Based on my interpretation of what I just read, one would assume that the additional $150 that was allocated was not part of the temporary measures. Be that what it may, fast forward to 2023, and now we are hearing that the additional $150 would have come to an end at the end of December 2022. The Minister of Finance, current Minister of Finance, did admit in yesterday's post-cabinet briefing that one of the challenges that may have occurred if this was really sunset legislation was the lack of communication by the Ministry of Social Development, under which this program falls, and beneficiaries of the program. And I think that has been a long-time challenge of government past. So it's not anything new that no one would want to point finger at the current administration for. Regardless, there is discourse back and forth about whether or not this was sunset legislation and not actually supposed to end at December 2022. I heard the former Minister of Social Development, Honorable Delma Thomas, indicate that there were no allocations for that $150. So while it was in the budget document, there was no allocations for it. And that's normal. What you have, and that's why it's called an estimate of revenue and expenditure. So what happens is that our government, our elected officials go to Parliament and they present an estimate. And what happens at the end of the fiscal year in December of every year, because the fiscal year for our government is January and ends in December. So what happens is that they go back to Parliament or within the Ministry of Finance and they look at the actual provisional, how much was spent compared to how much was estimated. So it's normal for you to estimate as what you're going.
But what the Prime Minister was saying was that this proposed, this $18 million was not even a part of the budget. It was a supplementary. It was done weeks after the presentation.
Yes. And that's what I'm trying to explain. So while it was in the budget, there was actually apparently no funding source for that allocation. So what happened is, I think in September, when this new administration came into office, they would have presented a supplementary estimate in the Parliament. And I went through the document, so I saw it. So I think there was $8 million allocated for the seed program. And that is commendable. And like I continue to say in my space, government is about continuum. I think there is back and forth. I don't like to say sides, but between the former administration and the current one about whether or not this is temporary or not. I think for me, as a non-state actor, one of the things I would have liked to see done by the ministry under which this program falls was an assessment of the program to determine whether or not the additional $150 should continue.
Right.
And again, the Minister of Finance did admit that there were some communication challenges, and that's acceptable. No, we accept that as a reasoning. But given taking all of the economic factors into consideration, we are still coming out of a COVID pandemic, still recovering. If you consider the inflated price of basic goods and necessities, there is a narrative that the former Prime Minister did not care about the poor and vulnerable. And then there is this narrative that we would have voted a caring government. So one would think that on all of the factors around what is happening, the economic factors be taken into consideration and the program be re-evaluated and determine whether or not there should be a continuation of the additional $150.
I think there's multiple things that need to identify, which I want to get into. But I want Dwight to just put his voice on this really quickly. On the allocation, because we still have to identify, and we have not yet fully identified if it was a sunset legislation, a legislation that was for a particular period of time, and by that particular time, the spending would be finished, and there would be no additional funds unless they go back and or reenact it over again. Dwight, what's your take on on this particular legislation. Do you believe that it was, in fact, a sunset legislation based on the information and facts that we have? Hold on, Dwight, you're muted.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. And let me just take this opportunity to wish everyone a happy and prosperous 2023. From the excerpt, and I want to agree with everything that my colleague, Cassandra, Ms. Mitchell, would have said. And from what the Prime Minister, the excerpt that the Prime Minister read yesterday, it did indicate that it was for 1 year. But I think the challenge with this particular issue regarding to the seed program is not so much the removal, it's how it was done. Right. And the Prime Minister said something very key. He said, and maybe we have not done enough to inform the seed beneficiary, paraphrasing, that the program is coming to an end and we take responsibility for that. And indeed, they need to take responsibility for it, because you're talking about money. You're talking about bread and butter issues for ordinary people, for the poor and vulnerable. And if we go back to what the definition of seed is, or what the original intention of seed was, you would see that it's basically targeted to the poor and vulnerable within our communities. Now, these people would have gotten accustomed to receiving an additional $150, which could have been an additional $150 towards a grocery, paying a bill, maybe bus fare, break and lunch, or whatever the case may be. And that was abruptly taken away without any consultation, without any advice from the beneficiaries as to how, or any assessment, as Cassandra would have mentioned, as to how this has impacted their life. And one of the things that this government has done is come out and say, listen, even in the lack of the post-cabinet press briefing that has somewhat disappeared and somehow reappeared, even in the absence of that, what they usually come and say is that, okay, well, this is what has been happening, but it's ending and we are in a reevaluating stage and it may come back. Right. Minister Gloria Thomas, made some mention of assessments being done to the list and so on and so forth, moving dead people who have graduated, etc., etc. Now, what I would have thought, or what my advice to the government was, after they have made that application to the Parliament for the $8 million to cover the rest of the payments from June to December, maybe within that time frame, they could have prioritized cleaning up the list so that we could have started the new year afresh. Because really and truly, we can sit at our various vantage points and see a lot of things, but the reality is on the ground. And it's the people who face with the difficulties, the people who have to put their one cocos to see how they can cover their day-to-day expenses, are the ones who are actually feeling it. And I believe that some sort of, even if it was seasonal, but some sort of intervention should have been done. Now, let's set the record straight. The opposition is politicizing something that is a bread and butter and a vulnerability issue for ordinary Grenadians. They're politicizing it, as well as they may have very keen interest in bringing awareness to this. But at the end of the day, as I said before, the reality is on the ground. People are facing challenges. People cannot meet the day-to-day expenses. People are still recovering from COVID-19 and the impact thereof. And so the government should have gone about this a little bit different, and maybe done some assessment, some house assessment, whatever it is that they could have done to see how this has affected the lives of the beneficiary in one way or the other, or if it has or has not affected them.
Right. Cassandra, do we know, someone asked this question, but it was in my head to ask as well. Who are some of the beneficiaries of this program? When we talk about poor and vulnerable, are there people on that list that you believe, or that the government somehow believe that could work, that could find work? And possibly because now they have the CESS program, which is geared towards entrepreneurship, kind of steering them over from that being waiting government assistance to now moving on and trying to start your own business. But that wasn't conferred. That wasn't spoken about. That wasn't articulated by the government. But back to the question, who are those people on the list? Do we have an idea as to who they are?
Yes, Junior. As far as I'm aware, as to who the beneficiaries are supposed to be, because I don't know who they are. This program is supposed to target minors who come or who are in. I know you guys don't like the word poor, but families who need support. I know there is a component of that program that targets minors. There is a component that targets the elderly. There's a component of it that targets the people living who are differently abled. I have to be politically correct in my phrases.
Yes.
So yes, I do agree. I've heard the grumblings on the ground that there are people, able-bodied, sound-minded individuals who are part of the program, and that is why I emphasize that they should have done an assessment, or understanding that the program was coming to an end based on what we are hearing, and see if there's anybody who should transition support under the program, and people who would have benefited and no longer need that support. That's what we're saying. But just to abruptly take the support from individuals who would have budgeted for this, and again, whether you guys like it or not, I am on the ground. Someone asked for me to just introduce myself. I am Cassandra. I've been working with the civil society community in Grenada for more than a decade and a half. So I've been there at the day, as Keith has coined, at the day. So I've been around and I've been involved in policy framing. I've been involved in creating programs on the ground. I've been involved not just here in Grenada, but across the region. So while we don't like the use of the words, and I don't think to a certain extent I like the use of the phrase poor and vulnerable, but there are people among us who need so much support. No, I'm not angry. What am I angry about? I'm passionate because every single day, let me just kind of segue a bit. I remember the last time I sat on this platform, I was late. But while I was late, I was reading the comments because I wanted to jump in and actually know what was said. And I saw someone for you literally laughing and making fun of me and politicizing my presence on the platform. But let me tell you the reason why I was late, because I had a 17-year-old who was about to commit suicide. I never said it when I came on the platform. I wanted to say it now. And I was late because I was listening. I was trying to help because I got a phone call and said, look, the young man swallowed how many tablets and they're taking him to the hospital. That is why I was late. And I've been involved and governments past and present who know of my involvement in every single area, not just domestic violence and family violence. I've been involved with climate change and agriculture and you name it, I've been around. So so there are people among us who need the support. Every single day in my interactions, I get phone calls, single mothers from families who are I like to say victims, but who have been exposed to violence. So I know our government, present and past, would have done or tried to do a lot, and there's a lot that can be done. But you guys have heard me say several times, the responsibility also is on us as citizens to hold those accountable. Remember that when they make policy decisions, be it this administration or the former administrations, these decisions are supposed to be reflective of our needs as citizens and our desires. And that's all we are doing, is to promote good governance and accountability. And it is our responsibility to do so, the ordinary citizens.
Right.
So I don't know who's on the program, and I would maybe even assume that they are able-bodied, strong-minded people on the program. But how are we going to know that if there isn't an assessment of the program to determine the needs of the? I'm assuming I think it's over 1,000 people who are on that list, and to purge the list, if I may use that phrase, and ensure that those who are supposed to be getting the support get the support.
Absolutely, I agree. The other big thing that people are asking, and we're trying to find out, and Honorable Delma Thomas said it in her comment on the Kellan Bob show, the Bob report, was that she was there when the legislation was being framed, and she for a fact said that she knew that that it was temporary. So I think we could safely say, based on her utterances, that it was in fact a temporary measure. She even said that during the time when it came closer to the sunset of the legislation, she even reached out to a few people and told them that, you know, it's coming to an end, most likely will be coming to an end, so they got to be prepared for it. But I think we could safely say that this administration did not do enough to let the general public know that this is going to end. In fact, Honorable Gloria Thomas, she spoke during the budget debate, and she basically endorsed it. She said, yes, it will continue. And they didn't come back and say that it was going to stop. So I guess when you look at all these facts, people was expecting to keep receiving those funds. Whether they are eligible or not, the fact is the information was not conveyed to them. Whether they need to sanitize it and get them out of it, that information was not conveyed to them in the timely fashion. And the Prime Minister even said it, right? The Prime Minister even said it, right? I want to play a quick excerpt here because the former Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, made an appearance on the MTV program, and this is what he had to say. Check it out.
Evelyn, every measure of government, you could consider it temporary. A budget is a temporary thing. It's a budget for a particular year. So the new budget may change, modify, increase, or reduce any specific activity. So that's not a very smart comment by those who are attempting to defend what has taken place. The fact is, the government then, recognizing the pain of the people, increased by $150 to a person's and the seed program. Clearly, at the end of the year, and we budgeted for a year, at the end of the year, the government, if we were elected in June 2022, we would have looked at the situation facing the country and continue the increase as we had. In fact, the present situation that's facing the country, I don't think anyone would want to disagree with that position. It's far, far worse than it was in June 2022. So if there was a need to increase it then, it makes sense there must be a need to increase it. And in fact, the government should not be taking out the 150. If anything else, they should have increased it, maybe by another $50 per person household or $100. It depends on, of course, the circumstances. So there can be no excuse. In fact, I am shocked. I am shocked that any government will take a decision to reduce the benefits to the poor people, marginalized in the country, ones that are in much more difficulty in a time of economic depression. I don't know any government would be serious enough. I am sure that the NNP government.
Let me fix that audio there. All right. So basically, the Prime Minister is basically saying the same thing that you guys are saying here. Dwight, based on what is being done now, right? What do you think the government, the Deacon Mitchell-led administration should do as it relates to going forward with this program? Should they then put back that 150? Should they then sanitize the list, recognize if there is savings, and then try to push through with a smaller list? What's your take on moving forward with this increased payment, this additional funding?
Yeah, as I said before, I believe consultation needed to happen. Now, you see, the thing about it is that when you begin to discuss issues relating to money, and for persons who are otherwise able, and I'm using otherwise able not for people of special needs, but generally people that refer to as vulnerable. You're taking away any amount of money, as much as $1, is a death sentence to them. Let's be frank about it. Because You see, the thing about it is, when you have gotten accustomed to a certain amount of income per month, you formulate your bills and your expenses to accommodate what is coming in. And so when that is deducted, it means that you don't have to cut from wherever area to suit what is left behind. And so I would want to agree with the former Prime Minister when he said that if anything that should have happened was an increase. But as I've mentioned before, if there needed to be some purging of the list or cleaning up the list or whatever, because on the ground, I understand that there are people who are able-bodied persons who were on the list and were getting the monies that could have otherwise been given. I also understand that there are persons who would have graduated because the definition, and let me just give quickly here. The definition for the SEED program basically is for persons who is in school, in a public school setting, and also for persons who, would have challenges meeting their day-to-day expenses and so on. So to take away from them, I mean, it's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing, So what? And then again, the manner in which it was done, it was done in a sense where there was not much information sent out. I listened to Minister Gloria and Thomas during the post-cabinet briefing, and to be honest, I felt a little bit hurt, by her response when she said, if by May, June or so, we will see. I mean, you want to project a sense of caring and concern for the people among you that are vulnerable, and they cannot afford, to cover the daily expenses. I'm trying to be politically correct, as my good friend Cassandra, in how I respond to this. But you see, the SEED program undertakes to do just that by providing assistance to the country's most vulnerable, tied to corporate responsibilities that promote human capital development, adherence to health protocol, and regular school attendance. So, I mean, most vulnerable among us, and then we have to admit that even if the regulations, the health and so on protocols related to COVID-19 has been rested, the economic challenges relating to COVID has not been rested.
Right.
People are still suffering. People are still trying to make ends meet. The war in Ukraine is still ongoing, which has affected, the supply of oil and natural gases. So you still have the fuel surcharge to deal with. And of course, we had the Prime Minister mention about the incentives and benefits that are coming to assist with that. But that helps everybody. But then again, you still have the vulnerable among us that needs particular attention. I'm not too certain, maybe Cassandra can help me, in what the specific figure now is relating to the SEED program, what they get every month. But I am very certain that it is not enough to cover, whatever expenses that persons have at the end of the month.
Yeah. There's one thing that's I'm seeing a lot of comments, and guys, we want your comments. We want you guys to call in as well, because this is a hot button issue, because it affects people's bottom line, their pocket, their spending, their ability to feed their children, right? So there are a range of opinions on this. So we want you guys to call in 718-701-5720, and that is the number. Now the question is not, should government give funding or assistance to the poor? Let me take that word out of my vocabulary. I don't like to say it either. Should government fund or allocate funding for needy in the community? I think the question is yes. I think that it's an obligation, assist people that need help, right? So the question is not, government shouldn't be giving them money in the first place. I think the bigger question is if government, and government is a continuum, if government has a program that is assisting the less fortunate in the community, and for some reason, whatever that reason is, they themselves may not know, or they themselves probably were not privy to the fact that it might be temporary, although it was clearly stated by the former minister, by the minister of St. Andrews Northwest, Delma Thomas, that it was in fact temporary. She was there. The question is, if government were to change anything about the funding and the sources, should they then alert the individuals in a good enough frame of time so that they could prepare themselves? I guess that is the bigger question. And did the administration do that? Which the
Junior,
yeah.
Let me just say this for the viewers, right? The SEED program unifies 3 individual cash transfers program that are no longer, which is the school transportation, the necessitous fund, and the public assistance fund. Now, we're talking about school children. We're talking about people who may want to pay a light bill, may want to pay a water bill, may want to buy some food. That's what the necessitous fund basically is for. And the public assistance fund are really and truly for the vulnerable families who may just need a little top up to be able to cover the overall or the overhead expenses at the end of the month. Now, if you add to that, or you top that up, maybe by whatever percentage, by maybe $150 for a specific period of time, maybe because of the economic situation at the time. What that does is that when it relates to the school transportation fund of assistance, that means that this particular child may be able to get an extra $5 or $10 to buy a break, or to buy a meal at lunchtime.
Right.
Right. When it talks about the necessitous fund, that family can now they're a little bit closer in able to buy that stove or that fridge or whatever it is that they need. Right. When you talk about the public assistance, that is an extra stretch that they can now be able to, pay off all the bills and put a little extra towards food, or pay off all the bills and put a little extra towards whatever it is. Maybe they need to top up with clothes or whatever the need may be. Right. Now you are taking away, you minus from that $150 because yes, it was a temporary thing. The former minister said so. The prime minister alluded to it from the former finance minister's budget presentation. So yes, it was a temporary thing. But what I am saying and what I'm advocating is that when the time came to an end, there should have been some sort of conversation,
right,
with the affected families to say, listen, we have given you assistance for a year, right? Now we are unable to continue this assistance because the program is going through some adjustments or going through some fixing for layman's term.
Mm-hmm.
But in the event that 1 or 2 months from now, 3 months, because I don't know how long it will take to do all the checks and balances with the list, we will come back to you and we will say to you, okay, this is what we can do. Or maybe it could be a situation, Junior, where they say, okay, we used to give you $150, we'll take back a 50 and we will leave you with 100.
Right.
Just as a way. Because $8 million, yes, it's in the millions, but I think that the government could have found $5 or $6 million and say, listen, we can assist. Because we're talking with people who just literally can't afford, right? One of the things I wanted to mention too, though, in regards to the program, let me just get it, because I'm reading from a particular document. This document is about 7 years old, but it really underscores what the SEED program is. So it says the beneficiary of the SEED assistance for school-age children between the ages of 3 to 18 who are registered in public school contingent on the monthly attendance rate of at least 95%. Assistance to needy household contingent on compliance with appropriate health protocols for each qualified beneficiary family. Beneficiary family must register in the community health centers, preferably in the district where they live, participate in workshop, health lifestyle choices, etc., etc. Now, my question is, with all of this, there must have been a structure where information is being given back. Information is given out, information has to be given back as to how it is that this program, the success of this program. And my question to the previous government is, what data do you have to say what data would have informed your decision in adding this $150?
Yeah.
And for this present government, based on that information provided by the former government, this present government, has that situation changed better, or is these 1,000+ householders in the same predicament? And what is being done to elevate or to better or to change their current living standards?
Yeah. Point taken right there. Let's jump to the call real quick. We got a call on the line. Caller live, where are you calling us from?
From Grenada.
Hi, Grenada.
Good night.
Go right ahead.
What I want to know, Junior, who put the extra 150 on the seed program?
It was the former administration.
Okay, I have no problem with government helping the needed people, but when the former prime minister was there, he didn't put it for permanently, did he?
Well, no. Well, based on the information that we gathered, right, it was temporary. It was set up as a sunset legislation that would end at a specific time.
Okay, I understand. But what I'm saying now, why is the problem when he make it for temporary? If the government take it out, maybe sometimes the government don't have the money to do it. And the people of Grenada knew that it was not permanent. And there's a lot of people who have children on seed and they don't even go to school.
Right.
Some people who even take money and make preparation for their kids.
Right. No,
so if they know the thing about the former prime minister, he liked to do a lot of contract and he liked to do like a temporary stuff. And then now they're trying to make NDC look bad. It's like NDC. No, they're not.
Right.
He put it, he didn't put it for permanent. So eventually they're gonna take it out.
Well, listen, nothing like that is permanent. A budget allocation is temporary. A budget is set up for a time frame, a year, right? And every year they will have to make another allocation for the following year. So it's never going to be permanent. It would forever be temporary.
Yeah,
right?
But they're supposed to give them a chance. And then how long did he put it in there? It was just before the election, ain't it?
It was Cassandra. I don't know if you could chime in on that. I know it wasn't like right before the election. It was a little bit. So Cassandra, help me out on this one. When did that legislation took effect? Do you know?
Again, just to emphasize that our fiscal year is January to December of every year. So that's a 12-month duration. And at the end of that, then you have a budget estimate and whatever presented to the Parliament of Grenada. So when the former Minister of Finance would have presented at some time in 2021, and it is normal procedure, not justifying anything, because I cannot state what was the intent, because I'm seeing stuff that this was political gimmicks or whatever. I cannot speak to that. All right. I know is that as citizens, we elect individuals to manage our affairs, all of them. And so, anyhow, the former Minister Boeing would have presented that in November of 2021.
Right.
And someone is correcting me that yes, there was no allocations, no source of funding for it. So while it's in the budget, there was no actual source of funds for it. But that is normal. Again, it's an estimate of revenue and expenditure. So the new administration came in, I mentioned this earlier, and I've presented a supplementary appropriation bill to the Parliament, and there was an allocation for $8 million to assist with the seed program. And Junior, if I may, I just want to encourage all of us to stop using the phrase government money. This is not government's money. This is our money. The
Mm-hmm.
Constitution guides us to elect representatives, and these 15 representatives are there to manage the affairs of the state. And the affairs of the state includes all of the state resources which belongs to the people of Grenada. And yes, I continue to advocate in my space that the decisions made by government, regardless of which political party is in office, must be reflective of the needs of the people. So whatever decision that the former Prime Minister made should have been reflective of the needs and desires of the people. Unfortunately for many, they do not think that that happened. And to some extent, we need to take responsibility for that, because I continue to say, and I said it under the past administration, that we continue to give our power to government, to politicians. Mm-hmm. This is not Kit's money. It was never Kit's money. It was never Bowen's money. It is not the money belonging to any politician. It is money belonging to us, and we have a say, and should have always have a say in how the state resources were managed. And for those of the list of the viewers who are asking me the questions about why didn't I speak up about this, I've always spoken up about several issues, about the docking of teachers' salaries, about the increasing of the minimum wage. These are topics that we have had for several years under the late Judy Williams, may her soul rest in peace. We have been advocating for good governance and management of the state affairs for years, but when it's only a small group of people who are advocating, then there's only so much we can do. So I really wish that at some point we can take up the partisan lens, understanding that the Constitution does not recognize party. It's so unfortunate that many of you try to tie me in to political organizations. I do not believe in a political party. So if you knew me personally, then you would have known that. I believe in governance. And if there's a representative who is doing well, that representative needs to be commended and encouraged, because it's not easy being a representative managing the state affairs. So no, I do not believe in political organizations. I haven't for quite a while.
Right.
Julian?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me just first say, right, that I commend the Dickon Mitchell-led administration for continuing the payment from June to December. It's commendable, and it must be complimented and celebrated. At least it shows that his administration really do care about the poor and vulnerable among us. But my point, what I'm saying is that instead of the abrupt ending, because I do not remember any conversation November, December about the coming to an end of this particular assistance. And one of the things that you want, as I've said before, when it comes down to bread and butter issues and monies in the pockets of persons who desperately needs it, it's a difficult thing to lose any amount of money, right? So I believe that some level of consultation should have gone in for the continuance of this, or at least, as I said before, maybe taking 50 back and leaving with 100, or some sort of 50-50 agreement just to assist.
But even if the government, stick up in there, but even if the government could not continue it, because, I mean, I don't know the government coffers, I don't know what's in there, but there might be situations where the government can't fund it. We're not saying that it shouldn't cut if they cannot sustain it. I look at it just like
some point. I look at it just like it can't go on forever.
Right, it can't go on forever.
It can't go on forever.
Right.
Right, and at some point, but as I'm saying, phase it out. The abruptness may have affected people, but let me just say this, right? And I want to make this point, and I want to piggyback on something that Cassandra just said. A lot of things I've seen the previous government get away with in the past. Mm-hmm. This led administration getting a lot of licks for it.
Yeah,
and I think it's unfair. It's unfair. One of the things that, and I listened to the Bob report some time ago.
Right.
He had Andre and Daisy and some other people, and they were beating up the government for for people being sent home. And while I do not at no point or the other support people losing their job, especially in this hard, difficult time, this is something that's been happening and has happened in the past under the NMP government. I am one of the casualties of that. And I can tell you, and it has continued to happen. But back then, nobody said nothing.
Right.
Everybody was cautious about it. And maybe now, this is one of the things I see that the NDC government is getting a lot of licks about.
Yeah, so it's like this administration has been held at somewhat of a higher expectation because they put themselves at that level.
I don't think it's expectation. I think they've been treated differently and unfairly. And I'm not given the opportunity. No, they're not going to always get it perfect. And the point I'm getting back to as I bring this home is that maybe it's a slip-up that they didn't come back out and say, listen, because listen, ministers have a lot of things under their belt to supervise over, to policy over, a lot of things. And maybe one or two things will slip through the crack. Bear in mind. So maybe it is that the Honorable Minister Thomas, Gloria Ann Thomas, and her ministry did not come out and say, okay, this is what is happening. And we cannot blame them.
Right.
We cannot fault them. Right? And the opposition, maybe they are politicizing this, maybe not. Maybe they're genuinely concerned, maybe not. We cannot say for sure. What we can say for sure is this, that it was something that was given, it has come to an end, and I believe that a lot of families are negatively impacted more than positively impacted by it. But the government can't do so much. And it's not going to go on forever. This seed program has been instituted for many, many, many years. I was reading some information earlier, and that was 7 years ago. And it seemed like it was way before that, because they had various necessities fund, the transportation fund, and the basic need assessment. There are different streams of assistance. So it seems like the assistance thing went on for many, many years before, right?
Right.
But at the same time, my question now, and I want to leave this question in the minds of Grenadians. One of the priority areas from the documents that I've read before this program says that there must be some empowerment. There must be some empowerment. So how many of these families that have been on the seed program for how many years have been given opportunities to create economic wealth for themselves? How many of these families? I think that is where we need to direct the conversation.
Right.
Instead of saying the government has to give $150 or add $150, let us have a conversation on how the government can help these families to make an income that they can now come off of the seed program and be able to take care of themselves independently from government.
Because, and Cassandra, I would like to get your point of view on it. I firmly believe in the idea of give a man a fish. I mean, don't give a man a fish, but teach him how to fish. Give him a hook, give him some bait, and show him how to fish. So in that way, whenever he get hungry, he could always go and haul a fish and feed himself and his family. So I am not supportive of instances where government, or anybody for that matter, is consistently over time just putting money in people's pocket. I'll tell you a quick story. There is a young lady that we helped here on the platform, and we helped her once, and we helped her twice, and she came back again for assistance a third time, and we had to tell her, what you need to do is invest in something. Go by the breweries, buy some, or go buy Coca-Cola and buy some Coke or something like that, and start selling products, so that in that way you don't have to keep coming back to us, because we can't fund you for the rest of your life, right? So the government should never have any kind of strategy or any kind of things in place that would continue to just put monies in people's pocket. I don't like that idea whatsoever. But there are people who might be disabled, who might be old, the elderly, and they have no other source of income. They have no other ways. They can't go and start a business. They can't go and do nothing else. These people is who I'm mostly concerned about. I'm mostly concerned about them. Not the hardback man and them who they on their thing program and they take it, they're using the money, they're buying rum, they're doing all kind of thing with the program. Let it go and walk. They could walk, let them go and walk. Government should not be putting money in their pocket. So that's why when they say that they're sanitizing the list and they're making the list a little more, lighter, thinner, and people going out and actually finding out who are the people and if they really need the funds, I endorse that. But there are still people who will need the assistance. And I think I am just saying that they should have known. Although it was temporary, which we identify, I think that the government should have done a little more to letting them.
But let me just stick this in.
Information.
Let me just take this in briefly. Now, 2022 was an election year, and there was no way in heaven, I know the NNP government, there's no way in heaven they would have said that this measure was a temporary measure just like that. They probably have stick it into the budget or stick it into some large conversation, but to come out boldly already and say this is a temporary measure, I don't think so. Because they wanted people to believe that this measure was going to last for a while. Let's be frank. Let's be frank. Because it's an election year and they want to purport that they
listen what Bowen said. Listen verbatimly what Bowen said. Listen to this. With that being said, you think the average person, I don't know if the average Joe on the street hearing that would just say, you know what, I understand exactly what that meant. So exactly. I don't know if there was a lot of, speaking on the ground to the people that would be
letting them know.
Yeah, speaking to them on the ground. Cassandra, this is an excerpt from what you read earlier. Do you even think that the former administration did enough to let people know that it was in fact temporary?
Oh no, like I indicated earlier, communication has always been an issue with government. And I mean, if one wants to look at the past administration as an example, we had a lot of problems in regards to communication, especially around social safety net program. And it is important to know that when you go out in the community, when we as CSO actors sit within the policymaker space, one of the things that always comes up is that there are people in the rural communities who are not even aware that some safety net programs exist. So right. There is a communication issue that dates way back. So yes, and you're right. The ordinary man listening to that in the shop doesn't understand all of these big words that have been used by the minister. So it's important for us to find ways, meaning government, to communicate the information to them in ways that they will understand. Yeah. And you have to commend the current Minister of Finance. He did openly state that communication may have been an issue in regards to the ending of the additional $150. Yeah. I am not disputing whether or not the seed officers would have indicated to some of the beneficiaries that the program would have ended, but those who are affected were they told. And we're missing a key point here. No one is saying that money should be just distributed to able-bodied, strong-minded people, and they should not get up and work. That's not what we are saying here. We are saying that there are people within our societies, the elderly who can no longer work. I know a citizen who once had his sight, and because of a brief illness, he's no longer able to see, so he's no longer able to work. So there are people within our societies who need help. The responsibility is on us as citizens to ensure that these individuals get help and to provide support for our government wherever need be. I'm seeing again on comments, and I'm hearing the rumblings on the ground that there are people who are part of the program who are able-bodied and strong-minded and should not be benefiting.
True.
So I am throwing out the question there. Well, these situations brought to the attention of the seed officers or the individuals within the ministries. I have had cases where there are people, I see who are benefiting. Let me use a case in point where there's an individual who's collecting monies to send the minor child to school, and that child is not being sent to school. As a citizen, do you report it, or do you sit on a keyboard where we have power and we bash those who are trying to help, or do we reach out to our our representative? Do we reach out to the ministry? Do we call? You know? And then there is an elephant in the room that we are not addressing, the whole issue of partisan politics.
Yeah.
And I said it earlier, we keep labeling people green and yellow and green and yellow. The Constitution allows us a sacrosanct vote. When I walk into the voting booth, no one should know who I vote for. No one.
True.
So this
True.
Yellow and green, I know there are people who publicly state who they support, but how do you define who the NDC? And it is unfortunate now, and I'm sitting in this space to hear that there are people who have supported, who have voted for this administration, who have been victimized. How do you explain that? And it is, if you go back to the Constitution, which, and I hear, oh, Miss Constitution is the 15 people sitting within the House of our Parliament, because they are the ones who took the oath and said that I swear to honor, uphold, and preserve the Constitution of Grenada. And that Constitution does not recognize political parties. When you enter the walls of Parliament, you are not the candidate for the NDC or the candidate for the NMP or the DULP or PGM. You are the MP for a constituency.
Yeah.
And currently, Grenada is divided into 15 constituencies. And now you're the representative of all. So we're not addressing this. And no one is saying that victimization did not exist. Of course, it existed under the past administration. But what are we going to do about it now? What are we going to do about the mistakes of the former administration while still criticizing some of the negative things that they would have done? Or are we going to do better?
Yeah. You're so right about that, guys. We're going to give you guys a last opportunity to call. We're a little bit over time, and we have to wrap up very soon.
Quickly going, but let me just say this,
Yeah.
Now, this is one of the second times I have seen in the recent times that the opposition is pinning, let me rephrase that, seeking to pin the present government against the wall on issues that they know for a fact that the government cannot release because it's a cabinet note.
Right.
And cabinet document is secret. It cannot be revealed to the public. So while this $150 may or a temporary measure based on the conclusion of cabinet, the cabinet note cannot be revealed, right? This is not the first time. This is about the second or the third time within the last couple of weeks and months that this has happened. So one of the things that I am noticing a pattern, and I want people to understand this. Government is there to assist. The government is there to enact laws. The government is there to ensure that our livelihood, the standard of our living, etc., is of good standards. But government cannot do it all. And at the same time, while I advocate that some level or some more assistance should be given to people, remember, as the Prime Minister would have said yesterday in the post-cabinet briefing, the same $80 million has been budgeted for at least the last 3 or 4 years for the seed program, right? And that tells me that the past government, based on the structure of the program, understood that this program, that the program was so efficiently managed that people were coming off the program and new people added to the program to maintain that among the people. I only could assume.
Right.
And so now that this government, because remember, this is NDC's budgetary period. The previous budgetary period was NNP's budgetary period. Let's and I know Cassandra don't want to get into the party politics, but this is the reality. So under this budgetary period, the same $80 million allocated to the seed program. There was no change.
Right.
So it means that $150 that were given to each household had to come from somewhere. No, the depth of that coffer is another question, right? And the sustainability, government's ability to sustain it and sustain all of the other programs and safety net programs comes into question. So what I am still advocating for is that this program be done in a particular way where people can be moved off the program and new people can be moved onto the program, or the program could be increases could be added to people who are on the program that really do need the assistance.
Yeah.
From that same pool of 80 million, and maybe you can increase it, as Minister Gloria and Thomas said.
Yeah.
But government can only do so much, and we have to understand that.
Now, I firmly believe, and I am totally in support of a complete sanitization of that list. Take out these people who are sitting there and collecting money. Yeah, sitting there and collecting money, and they don't need it. I think that they need to be taken out of the list, and that's what I'm saying. Probably it would be leaner, and government could get a saving that they could then put back that $150 in. But if you have all these people who I'm hearing people who they could walk, they don't want to walk. They need to get off the list. They need to take them off the list if you're in a better position to help. You don't need that. All right, Cassandra, you wanted to chime in. Go right ahead.
Well, I just want to piggyback on something that that Martha said in regards to the amount allocated for that particular seed program. So I started doing some research and I was able to get some figures that dates back to 2019. So if you look at the 2019 budget statement, there was an allocation of 18 million. 2020, 14.3 million. 2021, 18 million. 2022, 18 million. 2023, 18 million. And that's a significant amount on the public purse. It is our money. And it is interesting that Mr. Sampson mentioned the whole issue of the additional $150. Because if you look at the figures, right? And a certain amount consistently has been allocated for that program, it makes you also wonder where did the additional $150 or where was the potential source of funding for that. So again, and I continue to stress, I stammer, that we need to hold our government accountable. I remember during the pandemic when the former Prime Minister held, I don't know if to call it press conferences, and questions were thrown at him in regards to the status of the Consolidated Fund and the Contingency Fund and the National Transformation Fund. There was seemingly, his responses were very vague in regards to the financial health of our country, especially during a pandemic when all of us realized that the country was strained in regards to responding to the public health pandemic. So I continue to stress and encourage that we hold our government accountable. It is not government money, it is our money, and we have a right to know. I've said this in the past and I continue to say it. What is the status, the financial status of these public funds? And these are seemingly things that we were not aware of then. And seemingly we have little information now around the status of the funds. And for those who are chiming in, respectfully, I appreciate all of your contributions. But one thing is very sure, that it is the responsibility of the citizenry to hold our elected officials accountable and to ask questions and be informed. If you don't ask questions, how are you going to know the answer? We have come from an administration where little information was given to people who question. Why is it that it's an issue now that we are trying to get more information? We are not trying to necessarily put pressure. I don't think so. So I may be only speaking for myself on the current administration. But I think coming from an era where a lot of people are claiming that they felt stifled and they were not supported, that people are looking for something better, for support, for a caring government, caring representatives who are going to take their needs and desires into consideration. So I don't see it as a negative that there is seemingly so much pressure on this administration. A lot was promised, and I think objective-minded people know that things take time, but the reality on the ground is that these are difficult times and people are looking for support. And no, I am not encouraging that able-bodied and sound-minded people sit down within the confines of their home and not work. We need to find an enabling environment to encourage them to go and get skills training and to get themselves gainfully employed, rather than sit and be dependent on the social safety net programs which are there to support those who truly need it.
I would want to know, it'd be interesting to know how much of the able-bodied individuals in this program that apply to CES, that apply to make their life better by apply to start a business.
Don't go there, Junior. Don't go there.
It will be interesting to know. I'm talking to the able-bodied people because people get comfortable. It'll be interesting to know. It'll be interesting to know. But we got to wrap here, guys. Listen, here's my conclusion. I'll go back to you guys to get a quick conclusion. Here's my conclusion. I'll go first. One, I believe that the former administration PR could possibly the PR to letting people know that it was in fact temporary. I think that could have been a little bit poor as well, because based on what we saw with the budget presentation, it was a lot of big set of, as I say, highfalutin words that the regular man on the street probably didn't even know. People see that money coming in. What? I get more money. They don't even know where it's coming from. They don't know when he ended. And secondly, I think that this administration did a poor job articulating to the recipients of these funds that it will end at a certain period of time. That's not only my word, the Prime Minister even said it. So governments, probably that was, if government, the current administration was doing the more frequent cabinet briefing with media, that probably could have gotten out. I don't know. That's on and off. It's very sporadic. But probably that could be reinstituted where they have more regular information to the general public. So information like that will go fall, by the wayside. That is important. So two things. Both of them, I believe, could be accountable for mishandling information and not giving all the information as for the general public to consume and be informed with what's next for them. All right, Cassandra, your closing words, and then we go to Dwight.
Junior, I just want to thank you for the opportunity and to encourage citizens nothing is wrong with holding our elected officials responsible. Nothing's wrong with mentioning the Constitution. After all, it is the supreme law. It is what our elected officials swore to honor, uphold, and preserve. My heart really goes out to the individuals who are affected by the removal of the $150. I do support the intent of the Honorable Senator to revamp, sanitize, revisit the list. And hopefully those who are taken off are provided opportunities where they can go and be gainfully employed. That is my suggestion. Things are still tough on the ground for many people. It's unfortunate that there was obviously some miscommunication, misunderstanding along the way in regards to what exactly is happening with the seed program, whether or not the $150 was sunset legislation. But we're past that at the moment. And the fact remains that there are people who are affected, and we just call on our government to do whatever it takes to support those who truly need the support. And for those, well, I don't want to say those who don't, but maybe find other avenues for those who will be taken off the list. And all they can do is just encourage the best for our government, because if our government fails, then we are the ones who are going to be affected. So no one wants to see our government fail.
Absolutely. Dwight, thoughts?
Yeah, Junior, always a blessing to be on Ride Along, to share opinions, conversations, and to join with informing and to be informed. But I have a caution to this present government. Communication is critical. Communication is critical, and Grenada has a number of programs, both radio and new media, which is, of course, things like Ride Along, where people can be informed. I believe that it's time that we get that communication mechanism down back. It is critical. To not have a post-cabinet briefing in months doesn't augur well for what you're trying to do. And then you come and you have a post-cabinet briefing, and then an hour and a half or 2 hours nearly is taking over a minister's presentation. That's a lot of information to digest at once. And then questions are so restricted, and so on and so forth. I believe that outside of the post-cabinet briefing setting, there should be just a forum where media could come and ask questions based on things under your portfolio. That is critical. And so if you get that communication thing down back, it really deals with issues like this, because clearly the opposition is politicizing. Let me not say that. Clearly the opposition is capitalizing on your miscommunication of important matters like that. Your electorate, the voters, your constituents relying on you so that they are informed and they are up to date as to the plans and programs of the government. Outside of the Prime Minister, we want to see all of the other ministers. You know, the number of them we haven't seen. We don't see Kirk Perrine as regular. We don't see Cornwall as regular. There are a lot of ministers we don't see as regular, and you know, they need to come out and, you know, say, even if the ministries are minority ministry, such as the environment, you still want to know that they are there, they are working for the people, and they are doing what they need to do. That is critical. And for the persons who have lost that $150, I really, you know, I feel your pain. I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I know monthly it's a stress trying to cover all of the bills that demands on the little salaries, little incomes that you have. God is still able, God is still a provider, and I know that you will make it. And to everyone else, opposition, government, we need to come together. The vacation is over. It's 6 months, more than 6 months since the last general elections, and it's time for us to put away the colors. Let's put that in the closet, and let's really begin to focus on building Grenada, because that is what is critical. Grenada, Carriacou, Petite Martinique. Thank you, Junior. Good night.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, my brother. Cassandra Mitchell, of course, Dwight Sampson, all the way in Montserrat. Thank you guys so much. Cassandra, it's always a pleasure having you on here. Share your perspective. All right, guys, listen. This is what I'm gonna say very clearly. If you are able-bodied, if you are able to work, if you have a skill, if you are within that age group, nothing wrong with you. You have your 2 feet, you have your 2 hands, you're good. Get up and find a job. Or better yet, start something. Start a little something. Start a little hustle. Because listen, you don't expect government, or worse yet, I tell you this. Some people think that there are organizations that's based in the diaspora, that the sole purpose is to send down money for them. For some reason, some people feel like Ride Along is one of these companies. We just have like a money tree somewhere, and they feel like that is a purpose. Get up and get something to do. Don't be lazy, because some of you guys are just being plain out lazy. Get up and find something to do. Right? There are more people that need to be assisted by government and others than you. Big grown men. Instead of you go and work and try to feed your family, you're there and trying to see how you could collect a little money, and you don't do nothing. You're only drinking rum and all kind of thing all over the block. Find something to do. Stop wasting your damn time. Find something to do. And when the whole list is sanitized, you might be surprised how much people that get thrown off of this thing, because all they do, they're just waiting for a handout. No government could sustain a population of people that just sitting there and they with their lazy self, and they didn't want to go out and work. Find something to do. And I think CES was a good opportunity for you guys to get a little $30,000 and start a little business and do something with your life. Inspire your children and them to do that, to do the same. Come on. Get up and get something to do. Stop being lazy with all yourself. On that note, we'll be right back.
I want you folks to play these 3 games from the NLA. Daily Pick 3 cash flow and play with. You will be supporting sports and culture, nation building and our future. So go out and play, folks, make it a must. You will see what the National Lottery is doing for us. When you play Pick 3 cash flow and play with, the NLA will support you all the way.
Starting September 30th, Monday to Friday, these 3 games will be drawn mid-morning, 9:45 a.m., midday, 12:45 p.m., and evenings, 7:45 p.m. The National Lotteries, supporting sports, culture, and nation building.
Sunday money.
Yeah, guys. Yeah, go hustle. Listen, guys, right along live, we're going to Dubai, guys. I'm telling you. It seems like I'm over telling you, but it's very, very, very important, guys. I want you guys to join us. Join us, please. We are going to Dubai, guys, in October. This is your opportunity right now to take a vacation of a lifetime. A vacation of a lifetime to Dubai. Sherry Destination Travel and Riders Promotion presents Ride to Dubai. Now, there is a reduced deposit of $250. Get this, guys. $250 is your deposit, and you have 6 months to pay this thing off. Ride to Dubai, guys. Get the link right now. Let me put the link up there. Click it. riderstravel.com. Pick up Sherry Destination, partnering with us to make this a reality. We go into Dubai. Get your book your reservation right now. That price includes air, hotel, meals, everything, right? We take care of you while you're in Dubai, all right? Book that right now. We're heading to Dubai, guys. Also, let me tell you what's happening. What else is happening? Grenada Independence 49th Anniversary New York celebration, gala, award, dinner, and dance. The theme, the journey to 50, reflecting on the past, planning for the future. And listen, there will be a star-studded lineup of guests. Real vibes, entertainment, and all. Honorable Joseph Handel will be there, Honorable Andy Williams, and of course, Honorable Delma Thomas. Saturday, February 4th. Brooklyn, New York. Get your tickets right now at ridebuy.com. The tickets are available at ridebuy.com. That's the link right there. Click that link, purchase your ticket. Tickets are $200, include food, and a whole lineup of nice people would be there. All right. Great evening. Celebrate the 49th anniversary of Grenada's independence in New York.
Established in 1998, Ross Road and Funeral Services continues to assist you plan the ideal funeral or memorial service locally or internationally. Our reputation is built on providing personalized funeral services based on love and compassion. Call Ross Road and Funeral Services at 718-547-0640.
Ross Road and Funeral Services, where your loved one is our loved one.
Carpentry and Cleaning Service, Inc., providing exceptional carpet and cleaning, floor installation, refinishing, home renovations, drywall, painting, plastering, doors and moldings, electrical and plumbing, and much more. We are a one-stop shop for all your professional needs. Give us a call today on 718-221-5572. That is 718-221-5572. Or you can call our cell on 917-939-3192. Check out our sales on all services. We're located at 218 Schenectady Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. Phillips Carpentry and Cleaning Service, Inc.
Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for being a part of our program today. We appreciate every single one of you. If you share, if you like, if you support, if you give us stars, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the stars, guys. It means so much. It really helps this platform. Stars absolutely help this platform grow. All right. So before you leave, consider giving us some stars. Give us some stars, man. Just click that little star button right there and let the stars fly. Thanks again, guys. Catch you guys tomorrow. On the behalf of all our production team here at Ride Along Live, our senior executive producer, Lois JJ, doing all the hard work, all the heavy lifting. Of course, our moderators, Kibbs, how you doing? Gail Charles and Deanne Fraser. Thank you guys so much. This has been another production of Ride Along Live. Catch you guys again tomorrow. Bye-bye.